Hi, I'm Mike Papantonio, and this is America's Lawyer. Pranksters on Twitter were able to wipe out billions of dollars for some of the worst companies in America. It only cost them $8 to do it. We'll tell you how that happened. The United States is provoking China by deploying nuclear-capable bombers to let the country know what we can do. Yeah, we can start a nuclear war. And the 2024 Republican presidential race is shaping up to be a bloodbath between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. All that and more. Don't go anywhere. America's Lawyer starts right now. Some clever Twitter users managed to wipe out billions worth of major U.S. corporation stock by pretending that the companies were actually doing something good. God forbid they should do something good, Farron. But joining me to talk about that is Ring of Fire's Farron Cousins. Yeah, that's the irony that you said before that God forbid they should do something like give out insulin for the right price, right? Pick it up from there.
Yeah, so once they unveiled Twitter Blue last week, which has already been suspended, but people were able to buy the little blue check mark to make it look like it was an official account. So the pranksters, the smart folks, I gotta say, they're not just pranksters, they're very smart. They buy these handles that make it look like we're Eli Lilly or Lockheed Martin. They get on there, they tweet. Eli Lilly says, we're announcing insulin is now free for everybody. Lockheed Martin, the fake account, tweets out, we're going to stop selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. And immediately the stock market freaks out. Both of these companies just saw, I mean, you look at the charts, it's just an immediate drop. $15 billion in wealth wiped out with people who spent $8 killed these companies.
It was impersonation scam they went on. It was fairly sophisticated, but it was well done. And, you know, to me, that is the message. Can you imagine that Eli Lilly, who we've sued so many times, they're just one of the corrupt drug companies. I've been across the table in depositions with these folks wondering, am I going to make it out of here because I'm surrounded by sociopaths on the other side of the table? That's how these companies think. But God forbid, I mean, you know, what is it? It was 10,000% markup sometimes that we see drug companies, 2,000, 10,000, 5,000 markup. The latest story was on COVID vaccine where they want to raise 10,000% increase. Okay, well, that's nobody's fault. Is nobody's fault except Congress. Okay, they could stop it immediately. They could end all of this immediately. But what I loved about this story is it called attention to the fact of just what money grubbers these folks are. And God forbid somebody should do something good, which is what these stories were, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, it also shows that, guess what? The public, I know we always talk about it feels like people don't pay attention. What they posted on these fake Twitter accounts, it shows that there are people who pay attention. There are people who do understand what Lockheed Martin is doing, what Eli Lilly, what Nestle is doing. There was another Nestle one. And God, you and I have gone hours talking about the Nestle might be the worst company on the planet. And people are understanding that. And they're calling these companies out with this, you know, blue check mark, which I think is brilliant. I like it.
I think sometimes on this show we do wonder, is it getting through? Because some of these stories that we do, corporate media doesn't do.
Right.
But you have people out there that are so damn smart. I mean, they're brilliant, and they find the backstory. And I'm always really happy about that. And this is a good example. You had to know the backstory to pull this off. And every now and then, you know, sometimes it's frustrating. We do stories and we go, God, is anybody listening? Because corporate media is not telling the story. But the further I look, and this is a great example, people are paying attention.
It gives me hope. I know everybody, you know, oh, is Twitter going to tank? Is Twitter going to... This isn't even really a Twitter story. This is a story about there's people out there that are paying attention to the abuses of corporations. They're calling them out. And look, again, they spent $16 combined and they wiped out $15 billion in worth for these evil companies.
Twitter is not going anywhere.
Right.
I can promise you, they're not going anywhere. I saw a great quote. I forgot what magazine it was. comedy is legal again on Twitter. And that's kind of the new that's kind of the new feel I think that Musk is looking for. You know, again, I know you're no fan, I'm no fan of Elon Musk's, but something had to be done. And I think maybe this shakeup does help in a lot of ways.
I think once he steps away from it and lets other people start doing things, it'll go back. And there's room for expansion. There's room to do great things. But again, I got no complaints right now because this is hilarious what we're watching happen.
Let's hope it continues. The city of Oakland, California is hoping to use armed robots to kill suspects in the near future. All right, this story is just another story about the weaponization of local police, isn't it? We've done this story so many times. You know, Barney Fife gets in a new tank. Barney Fife gets a rocket launcher in some, podunk town in the middle of Mississippi or Florida or Alabama. So this is kind of one of those deals, isn't it? They have this thing that is designed for a certain use, but now they want to arm it. This robot they want to arm and put actual active ammunition.
I know it's not funny, but it is kind of funny because you really do have these cops. They get all these toys, these weapons of war from the military program that sends the surplus out to police officers and say, okay, well, we got this little. It's described as basically a Roomba with tank treads on it. And it's supposed to be used to go in and disarm bombs.
Right.
But the cops in Oakland say, okay, but what if we put a shotgun on it? This is real. Like, what if we just put a shotgun on it and I've got the remote control? I can go in here like I'm playing a game and just shoot the bad guys with my Roomba robot.
Yeah, and I can make the decision to do that. I ought to have the autonomy to make the decision, are they a threat? Because we're using active weapons, active ammunition right now. Now, so where this started was with what they call a pan disruption. It's a robot that's designed to do things like, shoot heavy amount of water to disarm or various things they can use to disarm somebody who might be holed up in a house, for example. But now that came up at one of the council meetings, somebody raised, hey, can't we just arm it with shotgun shells and just take them out? I don't think it's going to go anywhere, at least for a little while. But I would hate to think that some cat out there saying, I don't think we can do anything about getting them out of that corner in the house. Let's go ahead and blow them away, right?
And it shows how stupid this overall program is. I forget the name. Is it the 538 program? Something like that.
Yeah, it is where the military cells are.
And the reason we even have that program is because these military contractors like Lockheed Martin, they want to sell the new stuff. Right. So they've convinced the government, hey, give last year's stuff to these cops.
If you'll look at it, it was, when it first started, it was actually the manufacturers, the designers of these weapons that were giving them to them. And then it said, well, why don't you, military, give them your old stuff so you can buy some new stuff from us? It's all about the weapons industry getting their ugly hands on more money. The United States is inching closer to a nuclear war by sending nuclear-capable bombers to Australia to threaten China. Now, you weren't around when we had to jump under our seats in school. And we were supposed to get under our seats because there's going to be a nuclear blast. And that was going to save our lives. If you talk to anybody about what it is, the Earth will be gone in less than 14 minutes, okay? Now, all these freaks that I used to call, oddly enough, progressives, Democrat progressives used to be the ones that were saying, whoa, slow down here. Right now, we have an administration that is not walking, but running to force us into nuclear holocaust. There's no other way to put it. And so pick it up from there. I don't think I'm overstating this a bit. This is what this administration is doing.
Yeah, it is absolutely terrifying. So the plan is we're going to build this new facility down in Australia with the cooperation of the Australian government, and it's going to house multiple B-52 bombers with the nuclear capabilities. And we're doing this so we can be closer to China, of course, without having to do it here on the U.S. soil. We'll endanger Australia for it.
Oh, they're tip of the spear. They are vaporized.
Yeah.
And if I'm in Australia, we have a lot of folks that follow this show in Australia.
We do.
If you're watching this right now, we are not overstating this. This is an administration that is dead set on poking the bear to the point that we're this close to nuclear Armageddon. Okay, and if you're ignoring that, you're doing it at your own peril. This is serious stuff right here.
It really is. And, so far we have seen President Biden take very aggressive stances towards China, bordering on this is crazy. And this week, of course, he did meet with Xi Jinping. They were at the summit. Things didn't go wonderfully. They said there's still a lot of tension between the two. There's still no agreements on the big issues. About the only thing they could agree on is maybe we'll work together on some climate goals, which is great. But if you start a nuclear war, climate doesn't matter anymore because we're all going to be dead.
Well, let me tell you something. This ain't JFK. We don't have John F. Kennedy that's trying to fix this. We have an 80-year-old man with borderline dementia that doesn't understand the weapons industry is pushing and pushing. The Pentagon is pushing and pushing. It's like they don't give a damn. The idea of isolated nuclear involvement is absurd. If you talk to anybody, there's people that they've spent their entire adult career studying this. They say the entire Earth lasts 14 minutes if this starts. So why in the hell? Maybe you can help me with this because you're closer to that progressive side than I am. I'm not out there. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I just call balls and strikes. Doesn't this scare the hell out of you just a little bit?
It really does. And honestly, I do think a lot of progressives are also terrified of this. I mean, this, Common Dreams is a hugely progressive group. They're the ones calling this out here. And what we have to understand is that we're at the moment the aggressors.
We absolutely
are the ones putting these weapons close to China as a threat.
There is no more one China. Remember, the discussion used to be the one China, and that we could talk about. Now Biden's made it clear there's no one China. Remember, they had to talk Biden back. Biden was going off the damn cliff talking about what he was going to do to China. That's right after Pelosi made her visit, destabilized China even more. What in the hell are the Democrats doing? Now, Farron, you know me. I don't have allegiance to either party. I swear to God, I don't. You know what I think of Trump. You know what I think of the Democrats. I'm just trying to look down the middle and saying, what are we missing here? That we're talking about thermonuclear disaster for the entire planet, and this 80-year-old tired president acts like this ain't a big thing because the Pentagon keeps pushing him that way, and the weapons industry keeps pushing him that way. Give me your take. I have, as you know, I have huge respect for your opinion. I always do, Farron. I can't get my arms around this. Help me with it.
Honest to God, I really can't either because we're looking at a situation where we're not under immediate threat here in the United States, right? China is not gearing up to come over and bomb us or do anything super malicious like that that's going to put our lives in danger. We've got, cyber issues, sure, but there's no immediate imminent bodily harm coming to the United States from China. So on its surface, obviously, this makes no sense to begin with. And then when you drill down and you have all of these other factors, the industrial complex pushing this stuff, the contractors, all of it, that is the only thing that makes sense. That is the only part of this that you can say, okay, I see why we're doing it. I disagree, but it's the money.
See, this isn't the only story. We're covering one story, and I agree with you. This story's well done. It's done by Common Dreams. That's a great site. They're true progressives. But there is that faction of the Democratic Party that looks like these old freaks from the Republican Party.
Yeah.
The guys we used to worry, Goldwater, Barry Goldwater kind of thinking. I just can't get my arms around. I don't understand why people watching this right now think, oh, that's an overreaction. Hell no, it's not an overreaction. Thermonuclear war starts just like that. We're poking the bear with, Russia.
He's gone insane. There's no telling what he'll do.
Putin is totally insane. And now we're going to pick a fight with Russia. If you're living in Australia right now and you're saying, well, okay, wait just a second. You're moving all these nuclear arms right here to our little island. What are you thinking, man? What do you think? Are you not in the streets saying hell no? Well, I don't understand what's going on in Australia. They're usually very vocal about stuff like this.
I know, and I think what's going on is that, we talked about this story being from Common Dreams. I haven't seen it anywhere else. I really have not seen this anywhere else, and I think that's the
point.
problem, is nobody's talking about it.
Good point.
And this is a thing, guys. They're building the facility to house the nuclear weapons.
You weren't alive, I was, when John F. Kennedy understood that we were moments away from nuclear disaster. He and his brother, Robert Kennedy, made something happen that changed all that. You don't have that kind of statesman or leadership right now, Farron.
Right.
When that was going on, I swear to God, we were being told, get under your desk. Because we went through drills. Get under your desk. You have millionaires that are building bunkers, thermonuclear safe, they think, bunkers somewhere out in the Midwest. And it's happening not just a few, it's happening in big scale. So I'm just wondering, what does the average person not see about this? Because I get the impression they don't see it. And it scares me. Tell me, when you got children, it should scare the bejesus out of you.
And they don't see it because they don't see it, because the media is not talking about these very important stories.
Oh, the media loves a good war. You know, now they may not love a good thermonuclear war when they evaporate, but they love a good war. So their idea, push it just like they're doing with Russia. Push it as far as you can. Push China as far as you can, because it makes for good news until it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's what scares me here. Elizabeth Warren recently tore into the Fed chair for punishing struggling Americans. Thank you, Elizabeth Warren. God bless. What does it take for her to get a position of leadership she's obviously a vocal leader. But I'm talking about, why can't we think of her as somebody who could be the president of this country? I mean, what is that? This woman's brilliant. And she's called it out, hasn't she? She said the Fed is out of control. The Fed keeps, raising interest rates and putting people out of work.
Yeah, and it's, slow walking us right to recession. I think the fears have subsided a little. We still could be looking at one, middle of next year or early beginning. So the Fed is getting all these warnings, and that's what Elizabeth Warren is doing. She was also joined by Bernie Sanders and Katie Porter.
Yeah.
They all sign on to this.
Love all of them.
Yeah, great, real corporate fighters here.
Yeah.
But Elizabeth Warren, again, most vocal on this, telling him, you're putting Americans out of work. When you raise these interest rates, and the Fed's admitted that's the goal, we want more people out of work, and you're punishing the struggling people instead of the corporations price gouging us every day.
Isn't the math easy? Isn't it easy? You raise interest rates. A corporation says we need to cut back because we need we got to keep a profit margin.
Yeah.
And whatever they have to do to keep the profit margin, they're going to do it. Whether it means laying people off, they're going to take benefits away from workers. They're going to pay them less money. They're going to make it very difficult for the American worker because they can. And that's what the Fed says, that's a good idea. That's exactly what we want. And as we're looking at this, you pointed out just now, there's an easier way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go after the price gougers. If you got an oil industry, we did a show on this a couple of weeks ago, $18 billion in one quarter for one company, $12 billion in one quarter for another company, $8 billion for another. The numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
But the president and the Congress, I'll be damned if they'll say, you're going to stop your price gouging to the energy industry or to the pharmaceutical industry.
And we know exactly why. We have another story, once again from Common Dreams, because they crunched the numbers. They found that all of these pieces of legislation that were going to fight corporate price gouging, on average, more than 1,000 corporate lobbyists per bill going to D.C. to make sure these things never happen.
2,600 lobbyists. Did you see that number?
Yeah.
2,600 lobbyists went to D.C. when we started talking about we can have price controls. We can have windfall taxes. We can stop all this. They sent 2,600 lobbyists to stop it. And these bonehead, bottom feeder politicians, Joe, just give me a little extra money on my campaign and we'll look the other way. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're looking the other way, even though there's a lot of history here. Volcker made the same mistake, put us into recession. Greenspan made the same mistake, put us into recession. Right now we're at 8% inflation, 8%. The Fed says we have to get down to 2%. Can you imagine the suffering that's going to take?
No, we're going to end up having to get unemployment up to 10% if we want to hit that number. And of course, that means people suffer instead of addressing the real causes of these problems. And again, we're at the point the United Nations has stepped in.
Isn't that embarrassing?
Yeah.
Isn't that embarrassing? The United Nations coming and saying...
They're telling Powell, you're ruining the global economy.
Yeah.
You have to stop this. And Warren, Sanders, Katie Porter, they know the plan. They know what to do, and that would work. But nobody wants to listen to these people because they make too much sense, I guess.
Yeah, profiteering is fine, but the other side of it, let's let corporations profiteer. Let's let them price gouge. And oh, by the way, as we do that, we're going to take benefits away from workers. We're going to lower their wages. We're going to make it more difficult for them to get jobs. This idea of any flexibility where a worker has right now, it's going to disappear. The U.S. government wants to reevaluate our relationships with Saudi Arabia, but Wall Street, as you might imagine, has other ideas. So money has always been the attraction for scavenger bottom feeders that never believe that some money is too expensive. There is never that question, is some money too expensive? They've never asked themselves that. Pick this story up.
No, you've got the Future Investment Initiative that actually took place, I think, about a week ago in Saudi Arabia. You had, who went there? JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon, Blackstone Group CEO Steven Schwartzman, and they all lined up and they said, hey, Saudi Arabia, we're here. We know that you're sitting on $620 billion that you want to invest. We would love to help you do it. We know that you have beheaded over 180 people this year, political prisoners, but we're cool with that because you've got $620 billion.
Wait, they know that Saudi Arabia is responsible for murdering 3,000 Americans on American soil. Happened right where these cats, where Mr. Dimon lives, where Mr. Solomon lives, where Mr. Schwartzman lives. Happened right in their backyard. There's unequivocal evidence that the Saudis were behind it more than any country in the world. But here's the difference. Right now, there's $1 trillion being pushed into fossil fuel by these same cats, okay? So what happens when they push that money in for fossil fuel? What ends up happening is you're going to see a series of IPOs, all right? IPOs is where these guys take their mega fees. You see, they take management fees that are incredible. The other part of it is they're managing the portfolios. They're managing trillions of dollars of portfolios for these Saudi prince types. They're never going to say some money's too expensive, are they?
No, absolutely not. And let's also not forget, we've had some banks in the past doing business with Saudi Arabia. Things didn't end so well for them because it turns out, we were actually laundering money for terrorist organizations.
We handled that case. Yeah. We're handling that case right now where these same banks were involved, HSBC, okay? They were laundering money for terrorists from Saudi Arabia. They knew they were from Saudi Arabia. They're laundering money. The money was ending up killing American soldiers, American contractors. We can pin it down exactly. Dollar comes to the bank. That dollar, we can trace exactly what the terrorist organization was that used it, down to where the roadside bomb is. We have it down to that. They know that, the evidence, but hey, has the DOJ done anything about it?
No, absolutely not. And that was Eric Holder decided we don't want to actually prosecute you for this. We're just going to make you pay back some of the profit, not even all of the profit.
No, it was $1.6 billion and they made $100 billion. They signed a massive document that said, yeah, we were washing money for the Saudis. Yes, we knew it was being used for terrorism. Yes, we knew it was killing American soldiers and American contractors. Wall Street would bless this all day long. They would bless, if you had 1,000 Khashoggis, if you had 1,000 Khashoggis, the bottom feeder punks on Wall Street would say that's absolutely okay. These three guys, Mr. Jamie Dimon, Mr. David Solomon, Mr. Steven Schwartzman, that would be just fine. as long as they can make a profit.
They would personally step over those corpses
Oh,
to go sign that deal.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're absolutely stepping over corpses. These are the same people. Understand, Hitler was buoyed up by these very same types. While mass extinction was going on, while Hitler was at his very worst, they were involved in the process of money lending. So at what point you say it's irretrievable, it's broken. It's irreversibly broken. And this is the best example. And Biden has no courage at all. He could step in, he could say, this is absurd, stop it. He won't do that because the Democratic Party is making so damn much money from these very people.
Well, and what he needs to do, just so everybody's aware that yes, he does have power, is declare they're a state sponsor of terrorism. We know they are.
Yeah.
So slap the distinction on them, make it illegal to do business with them, and you can stop this in its tracks.
Well, first of all, that you understand that's been put on the table.
Oh, multiple times.
It's been put on the table. Why are we treating these thugs, these Saudi Arabian thugs, this prince who I call a mutt? Why are we treating them any different from any other terrorists? Because the weapons industry, they want us to. Because the energy industry, they want us to. Because the Democrats and Republicans want us to. Because they're getting so damn much money. So now they own this country. I mean, they're already so invested in this country. I don't think we can ever reverse that. But the point is this, these folks that I just named, maybe we'll have a picture up on in this segment, these folks are stepping over corpses of American citizens, 3,000 that were murdered by the very people that they're so anxious to make money from.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is running for president, but a lot of Republicans want this guy to step aside and say, look, Trump, you're a disaster. You actually cost the Republicans so much in this last election. If we look at your track record, it was awful. He was going around the country saying, this is my candidate. Okay, this was your candidate, and they lost. Last one is Lake, right? That's the last one that took place. So it comes down to now you got Ron DeSantis. Pick up from Ron DeSantis. Give me your take on it.
Ron DeSantis had the biggest victory of any single candidate last week, and really any candidate in the last, 80 years of Florida history.
Yeah.
1.5 million votes he won his election by. He is a solid heir, I would say, to Donald Trump's MAGA empire.
Yeah, whether you endorse him or not, he maybe can bring some sense back to the Republican Party, is the talking point.
Yeah.
He's not a crazy man. And here's the difference. They say that he's boring. He is a little boring, frankly. But you know what? He hasn't been accused of rape. He hasn't been found to have committed fraud. He hasn't been found to have committed tax evasion. He wasn't the best friends of Jeff Epstein. He didn't have a close relationship. He had no silver spoon in his mouth like Daddy did for little crazy Donnie. He wasn't regarded as the worst person on the planet, as we've seen. I mean, you realize there's been votes by both sides.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has been called that person. And so
he's got military background too.
Yeah,
So that works well for him with that, Republican base. And listen, I don't like DeSantis at all. So, I know you don't. But I do think if we're looking at this in just terms of candidate strength, DeSantis beats Trump on every single level. And I love that you pointed out these things that he doesn't have.
Yeah.
Because I've mentioned that as well. As much as I dislike the guy, there aren't, as far as we know, and we've had plenty of time to look, there's no skeletons in that closet.
There really aren't. There really aren't. I mean, when he says, I love my wife, I'm a family guy, that is the story.
I mean, he's got bad culture war legislation, sure, but everybody's
There's
got...
There's no question. I'm not embracing this guy.
I'm just saying, but in terms of, have you had any affairs? Were you secretly paying for abortion?
Exactly.
He hasn't done that, and so that automatically puts him leaps and bounds above some of these other Republicans with embarrassing videos or whatever.
This is a short list I got to think about before we came on the air, and it is, Trump has caused more harm to the Republican Party and to American politics. And it's just time for him to move over. And the only thing I see promising is you got a guy who might be able to do that here. And I'm looking at the numbers right now. He's killing Trump already.
His poll numbers have gone through the roof in the last 7 days, and Trump doesn't he'll never step down. He is not going to move out of the way, even though
he has Trump has serious mental problems. He really does.
And the number of Republicans, his former allies, his MAGA people, the number of them coming out is increasing every day saying, no more Trump. So
well, the truth is, DeSantis is a rising star, and Trump is a flaming out meteor that was there through the sky. He's flamed out. Nobody will admit that he's flamed out. But as you point out, DeSantis, 1.6 million votes in Florida ahead of Charlie Crist. The biggest difference is ever. Is it just Florida history or is it anywhere? Governor history?
I know it's definitely Florida history. I'm not sure if it's all over, but I have to imagine it's at least in the top 10, maybe top 5.
Let me close by saying this. He needs to get out there now because Trump is going to be out there trying to tie up the big givers, okay? He's going to be out trying to tie up as much money as he can from the traditional conservative donors. But if you look at the field, you got maybe Pence, maybe Haley, from South Carolina that's in the mix. But you have Pompeo, who I believe will come in as a spoiler. You understand? If Trump has a lot of people in the field that are just taking away potential votes from DeSantis in the primaries, that's how Trump wins.
You know who else has been trying to paint themselves as not a crazy person recently? Somebody you and I actually talked about a while ago as a potential spoiler, Dan Crenshaw. Dan Crenshaw has backed away from all of the, Trump-like people. He's got the military history, obviously the eye patch that immediately draws your attention to the military history, gave up a part of his body for it. That sells well with average Americans.
You agree, though, Trump is going to hope that everybody stands back while he scrambles around trying to tie up as much money as he can from the big donors.
Absolutely.
That's what DeSantis needs to be aware of. Farron, thank you. Thanks for joining me, okay?
Thank you.
That's all for this week, but all of these segments are going to be available this upcoming week right here on this channel, and you can follow us on Twitter at America's Lawyer. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where every week we tell you the stories that corporate media won't tell you because their advertisers don't let them tell you that story. They won't permit them to tell these stories. Or their political connections are just so tribal and so deep that they can't tell some of these stories. I hope we'll see you next time.